4 p.m. I think. Yep, 4:20 actually. So I just got home from work, and I've had a little bit of dilemma going on with the my project here, my solar assisted upstairs heat pump here. So the whole goal, of course, is to try to get it to run solely on solar automatically. Hey, it actually is switching pretty good. That light isn't even on. Actually might be working better than I thought right now. Hey, what's up, Pepsi? Take this thing out so I can read my amps. I never gets old just dinking with this a little bit when I come home from work and scoot around. I figured out something in my mind earlier today of one of the issues I've had. Oh, okay, wow. It's automatically already disconnected the utility power. I've been having issues with my controller since I dicked with it over last weekend or whatever. I kind of changed it up. Track, is automatically gating. I have temporarily connected, the cable going down to the variable frequency drives output that tells that what the DC bus voltage is. And when it gets below the threshold, it starts bringing on my triac to power utility power. Other than that, this time of day, especially on first stage, you need any utility power. That's disconnected. AC unit, compressor, and fan still staying running. 4:20, as summer progresses, we get a little more sun, a little longer in the day. So I've been trying to get this thing to where it automatically turns off the utility power and just starts tapping on it as it needs it, as the sun starts going down. And in the opposite, from morning until the sun's coming up, I want it to start using less and less utility power. So right now, only my air handler is drawing off of the grid power, and everything else right now is running on solar. Now I'm sure, with that angle of the sun, if I turned it to full second stage and the compressor went to 60 hertz, it would not be able to run off the solar this late in the day. But anyway, here's my dilemma. I'm just kind of rambling out just my thoughts. But so I did have that other control box up here for a while, and it was where I was rectifying the power externally, and then I was dicking with it. But I've been kind of messing with this. So now I'm using pulse width modulation. I reprogrammed my chip the other day and kind of changed it. It's reading off of, like I said, the VFD's 0 to 10 volt output rather than this little high voltage divider thing I have that goes from 330 volts down to less than 5 through the optical isolator, which I realized was giving it some variance. So it didn't want to work right at all. It was like working worse. Once I kind of changed that, I'm like, what the hell? And one thing I realized was that whenever I have this thing outputting the commands to the parallel port, up into this liquid crystal display down there, it was slowing down the processor a lot. Once I changed it to pulse width modulation, and I only have it changing it's like doing error correction, right? Like if the voltage is less than a certain value, then it increments the pulse width by 1. And it's a 0 to 255 8-bit, step, right? And then it has to go through the cycle again. If it's still under the voltage set point, and it increases it by another value of 1. So it's real small steps, 0 to 255, between no pulse width and full pulse width, the modulation there. So with the processor not running fast enough, I kind of realized when I was on the scope the other day that when I cranked my voltage input, it actually had a little bit of lag to go from 0 to 100% pulse width, because it had to go through 255 individual steps to get there, So I realized that the LCD subroutine was really slowing it down, and if I took that out, it was like almost instant, because it can do a couple thousand instructions per second at 8 megahertz. So I changed this, so it says run, but what it is that's just the last command sent to the LCD, and it's no longer sending any commands to the LCD. But the LCD just says the last thing you put on there, as long as you don't give it a clear command. So if I push and hold this button, I change my program. Then it goes to reading my set point versus the voltage. See that? And if I let it goes saved and then run. That's the way I reprogrammed it for now. So if you hold it, then I can push the up and down, and then when I let go of the button, it goes to my save to the EEPROM subroutine. That's actually working because it's speeding up the process. I guess the other thing I could have done was have it like change the increment of 5 on the pulse width every time it went through that error correction subroutine, and that probably would have gotten around the lag and have to go through 255 steps. It'd be whatever 255 is divided by 5. It'd be that many fewer steps. So, but anyway, I've had an issue a couple mornings. I've come out, and yesterday it tripped my VFD, and my wife didn't have any cooling upstairs until I came home to reset the power. And hopefully this is coming out clear. I'm on Wi-Fi, but I'm on my downstairs Wi-Fi that's just on the other side of the wall. So you guys, is this coming out okay live, hopefully? Nobody's complained, so hopefully it is. But anyway, one other thing that I kind of realized as I'm doing this pulse width modulation thing and pulsing the power is I only have one capacitor for the DC bus in there, and then it's just the ones that are inside the variable frequency drive. That's engineered for like AC power all the time, not for switching it on and off and doing weird things. So I'll probably be better off if I actually incorporated a couple more capacitors. My original thing I had up here, I had like 3 or 4 capacitors up in my box, plus the ones down there. So that would help average out the voltage. So who knows, I might need to add some more. But I still wish I could do pulse width modulation on the right after the rectifier and do some sort of power factor correction with the coil. But I don't know if you guys saw the photo I uploaded the other day of the MOSFET, but I was fucking around in the garage and I was manually just going up and down with a pulse width modulation, not actually like correcting with voltage once the capacitors charge up, but I was trying to charge up the capacitors in my variable frequency drive I have in the garage. I didn't even get it fully charged, and then boom, the MOSFET blows up. It's like a pretty high output, like a 30 amp MOSFET or something at high voltage, and I'm like, what the fuck? And anyway, like 2500 watt MOSFET. So not driving a motor, I didn't think there'd be any issue, but then after the fact, I'm like, oh man, I forgot to change the frequency of my pulse width output. It was like real low, like at I think I had it still down at like 500 hertz or maybe 1000 hertz. I probably need to look up what it is for that 1.4 millihenry coil, but maybe it should be like 4 kilohertz or 30 kilohertz, I don't know. But I probably had the wrong frequency, and being so slow, and it was pulling current way past the saturation point, I think, of the coil, and horrendous amount of current probably through that MOSFET. I'm probably lucky it didn't explode instantly. But anyway. Do you have too many capacitors? I don't think so. Well, the only thing is the more capacitors you have on a DC, in your DC bus, when you have them discharged and you put that disconnect in, you get that pow, that horrendous amount of current for a slight, milliseconds, but you get a horrendous amount of current, whatever your wiring can handle, the instant you put that disconnect in and charging those capacitors through the rectifier. If you plug in, like you guys notice, if you plug in a high efficiency AC unit that has an ECM motor in it, and you put that disconnect in, and you don't even have the contactor closed for the compressor, what happens? You got like arcing going on when you plug in this. Same thing on a furnace with an ECM motor. You plug in that power cord, and if the furnace isn't even running yet, but what do you get? You get pow! It like arcs, actually burns the tip of your plug a little bit every time you do it after it's been unplugged for a little bit. And what that is that's charging up the capacitors. ECM motors have 3 or 4 capacitors, and then the variable frequency drive has 3 or 4, 6, whatever capacitors in there. So from the time it takes the capacitors to charge up, especially at bottom full discharge, you got like a huge spike as it charges up, and then once it approaches the voltage, of your input voltage, the current goes down linearly with that, but you get an inrush, a massive one when you plug it in. So if I added, more and more capacitors, every time I plugged in that disconnect, when they're discharged, it would take more and more amount of surge current to charge them up. I'm probably rambling on, but basically, that's what it would. Partially start, So, if I had the voltage gets too low, my VFD would start freaking out. So let's go to DC here. The sun's going down, so we'll probably actually get to see this range. I like to lock the range there. One sec. Need 2 hands. Okay, carefully do this. This is high voltage. High voltage DC. It's a pretty good insulating clips though. Oh. 330 volts. Let me unplug the solar. So utility only, and this thing pulsing, it's like 328. Plugged it in. Now, when I start it off, thanks Goodman. Bah! Bah! That's not me, that's a Goodman turd. Now, since I started this video, however many minutes ago, this thing still ran off of solar only, but look, it's already starting to tap. So my contraption is actually working. It's just been a little glitchy lately. So I've still got some going to the draw board. See, every once in a while it's pulling there when an amp. Now it's mostly 0. So I think it's still going to run. Let's see what the voltage is without utility. 329, 330. Okay, well, that's full rated voltage. Full rated voltage for my panels is 330. It's 30 volt panels, 11 in series, and another 11 in series parallel to double the current. So I got about 17 amps worth of panels at full sun at 330 volts. So 5,500 watts supposedly. More than enough to run the compressor full tilt when the sun's straight up. But right now, if I turned it to 60 hertz, it would probably sag and trip. And that's also when it would probably need to bring this on. So right now, bouncing around 330 volts. So that's actually, with the sun way down to 430 or whatever it is now, 435, it's still able to run my compressor on first stage, 40 hertz with no utility power. And this fan's probably drawing an amp off of that. So you can see it's just tapping. So technically, if this thing never screws up, it's actually working the way it is. But I've been always coming out here, and part of it might have been me, but I come out here and I go, man, I want the solar or the utility power to shut off as soon as possible. I want to make it run as much off of solar as I can. And I was setting this kind of lower, like I said, it's just the value isn't a voltage, it's just the set point. That's like just 0 to 255, and the volt 0 to 10 volt, which is divided in half, 0 to 5 going in my processor. It's just that value. So V at the bottom there is what the VFD 0 to 10 volt thing is telling my processor, and I have it set for 198, so it's right about there. And that's why you see in that pulsing, just every once in a while that green light would be flashing, but that green light's not flashing. See, just the power light's on, green light's not flashing. It's pretty much just happy getting enough voltage from the solar. As it starts sagging, if we just leave this open and come out in about 5-10 minutes, we would see this probably start taking more utility power. So, oh, I gotta show you. So, you know what? I have something else to show you guys that I just scored yesterday, and I think it works. So let's let this go. It's kind of bouncing about an amp. That's okay. If it only had to do that in the afternoon, I'm not going to cry about that. And remember, that's reactive current, so it's an RMS meter. It's not really pulling as much as those things say. And of course, yeah, someone just mentioned the batteries. Remember, I got 100 plus batteries here. I have 2 of them I just took out of the box yesterday. I'll show you what I bought yesterday. I took a gamble off of Craigslist. So here's due south. So just to show you how late in the day it is. There's the sun. It's about 4:30 now, I think, or whatever. It is 4:33. Punks. Just don't be playing emo music. Don't ruin her with emo music. What kind of music do you like?
I'm just letting you know that Bluetooth is emo.
They're not emo. We already had this discussion. What kind of music do you like, though, right now at the moment?
Beartooth.
No, but what style music were you telling me the other day?
It's not.
Yeah,
Actually,
take that shirt off. It's weirdo.
It's actually not deathcore metal. I thought it was, but it wasn't. It's metalcore.
So metalcore is what you're into right now?
Yeah, and guess what?
At 11 years
old?
old?
A lot of metalcore is emo.
No. Now that's kind of wimpy stuff right there. Is that 3 Days Grace or what is it? Yeah, they're wimpy.
You leave Grace out of this.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption. Man, got to get me a mini split out here soon. I hope the internet's still working. So I guess nobody's complaining about the video. The video quality's been okay, guys. The Wi-Fi this is connected to, my second one, it's called COVID pandemic dispenser or something. That way people won't connect to it. It's on the other side of this wall and at the TV there. This is what I want to show you guys. Somebody had this sold on sale yesterday for $50. Said it doesn't work anymore, and it used to, but it was just sitting in an RV, so they bought a new one. That's good, 5 and 5 on the video. So I texted the guy. I said, will you take like $35? I said, because it's a risk. It's like it could just wind up just being more scrap, right? More scrap to go in my freaking scrap boxes, right? Circuit boards and heat sinks and stuff. By the way, this is how I get capacitors and stuff, the apps and that stuff. This is an LG inverter board. So you have taken 2 capacitors off of it, and I got 4 more. Those are some badass capacitors. I bet you that's $50 in capacitors right there, at least. Those are. But anyway, I'm like, this could just be scrap for the heat sink or whatever. I'll just pay $35 for it, but 50. And the guy said, okay, yeah, come on over. So I came over and got it yesterday. So I was just charging off these batteries. So I'm gonna go ahead and let me turn off that battery charger and unhook it. And I just had these jumpers on there, so it charged both batteries. Oh, I accidentally slammed them together this way yesterday. The second time I went to jump a second battery, and it was a direct short, 24 volts, 2 batteries in series. Got to stick them on this way. Anyway, I tried to turn on the toaster with it yesterday, and the toaster went off for a second, it went off. But I checked the voltage here, and it was actually dropping down. Then I put 2 together, and it was still dropping down to like 9 volts. So I don't know how many watts one toaster slices at a time. It's 1650 watt toaster, so divided by 4, 500 watts or something. Not even 500, 400. So this is 1,000 watt, it says, but I don't know if that is continuous or not. But yeah, it says 12 volt. Oh, so 12.5 volt DC, 97 amp continuous. So obviously these 2 batteries can't do that. So this thing might actually work. Turn it on. The only light I've been getting is, watch, this light comes on for the GFI. At least it did yesterday when I brought it home. I'm trying to show you guys something that works, but this is a display up here, and it says status and everything. None of that works. Oh, I forgot to unplug this. Here's the inrush of capacitors. See that? Yeah. There it goes. That light came on. So of course, this fan's gonna run. All right. And then plug in. So it's still plugged in. Got it plugged into the recovery machine. Of course, it's not doing any work. That runs. When I tried to plug in that vacuum pump yesterday, though, it's told me fuck off. And I only have 1 battery hooked up. Let's just see what it does. Yeah, it just trips. So I noticed this thing will reset a few times, and then I think it locks out. Might still have to. I've been having to unplug the battery till we get it reset usually. But anyway, maybe if I get a chance, I'll hook up like 4 or 5 batteries, or I'll open the hood to my truck and wire this up to that. Yeah, see, it's not resetting until I do this. Maybe I'll hook up it to my truck battery or something and see what this thing can do. There it goes. But for right now, it seemed like it wanted to run the toaster with 2 batteries, but it would trip within a couple seconds. And it instantly trips with the vacuum pump. But if they say this is 1,000 watts, I don't know. It should be able to do a little bit of something. Honestly, starting that vacuum pump might be more than 1,000 watts. I have to figure it out. The inrush currents is always what gets you. But anyway, it says it's rated 97 amps continuous. I mean, a Magnum Energy. I think these are the Magnum Sign brand that everybody says they get on the internet. I don't know. They had it in an RV, but I don't know if I want to take it apart or not to see why this display doesn't work. But if it works for around my house or whatever, all I'm losing is a voltmeter or something, probably, right? Yeah, he said, oh, look, he still had, he bought a new one just like it, I guess. He said it had the remote, it wouldn't turn on. So I'm figuring out that I have to reset the power and then I can hit the button and it comes on. So anytime he probably tripped it or whatever, he probably didn't know he had to disconnect the battery to get it to reset. But that's seems to be the same one. CSW 1012. Is that what this is? CSW 1012. Yep. So it matches the box. It looks like he bought another one just like it. Maybe I could look up get the manual for it and see what the USB does. And maybe if you don't have the remote, maybe none of this works. I don't know, but maybe something's wrong. But as long as it just has the output that works okay, when I have enough battery source to it, maybe it's good enough. I won't even take it apart. So I think so. $35 for 1,000 watts if it works. What do you guys think of that deal? What do you have the fan in the garage for? Yeah, it's already getting warm. Remember that thing used to blow out a little cool air when the water was heating. Yes, we're live. And but I took it out because it was too cold in the winter and I couldn't even stand to be here. I mean, it froze my garage sitting here. So you guys know I have the little water heat pump outside now. This is the inside. The circulator pump. There's my homemade controller still working. I never did like clean all that up after I disconnected it from here, the VFD, but it just works. So, works pretty good. Huh? You're not wearing yoga pants, huh? Okay, you're not. I was gonna kick your ass. Only ASU sluts wear that shit.
These are lying.
I was just over at one of their dorms. Ugh. I would never let you dress like those girls. And you only go outside. Oh, shoot. Gotta walk through the house with the wife going. All right, I'm gonna go back out there and kind of see if the voltage is dropping yet with the sun. I don't know what you're looking at.
What are you doing?
I'm live.
Live?
What do you think she's gonna say? She said we go back. You probably didn't get that in shot. Great, doesn't matter. Oh yeah, she's getting ready to go Thursday night thing with the ladies or whatever, church thing or something. So, all right, so is this trickling on more? Oh yeah, you can see the green lights flashing. That means the triac's being gated. I noticed this track was putting out heat on this heat sink. It was pretty warm the other day, but it was uncomfortable, but it didn't burn my hand, so I think it's gonna be okay. It's not the biggest heat sink. It's a 30 amp, I think, triac, so it should be good. But when you're gating them constantly on and off, a lot, whatever. So it's 3 amps. So as you guys see, I haven't changed nothing. And the sun's went down more. It's probably 4:45 now or something. So we're right at that spot. I'm home at the right time to see that the transitional part this time of season, right where first stage isn't going to be able to run off solar by itself as much. So yeah, see, oops, and I just pissed it off because it doesn't stay in the corrective subroutine when I hold this down. But I was just trying to look at my reading. So yeah, you can see the solar is no longer able to run it. If I pull this, it's just going to repeatedly trip the VFD. Yep. So going to be close to 3 amps. And of course, if I pull that off, it just goes, full draw. 12.8 amps. When I'm high, it reads like 22. Again, RMS meter. It's little clippy pulses and stuff through the triac. That meter's reading way more than it's actually pulling. I think the compressor should be, I'd have to have this out, but compressor, when it pulls like 7.5 amps, let's say 8 on high 3-phase, multiply that times 1.6. What is that? Somebody calculate that. What's 8 times 1.6? That'd be 0.6 of 8 is about 4.5, so it'd be 12.5 amps. So it should be like 12.5, 13 amps. Plus the fan motor would be another amp. So let's say 14.5 amps is what this thing should be pulling, single phase, on 60 hertz, and it always reads like low load like 18, 19, and higher loaded reading like now it reads like 22, so definitely not getting an accurate reading. I know it ain't like losing over 5 amps, in the circuitry and stuff. It's just the meter doesn't. I come to the conclusion that the RMS meter does not read accurately with the concoction I have. So as long as the utility meter doesn't also get weird readings and overcharge me, I don't care. But anyway, 327. It seems to be switching about 327 volts. It's nice and steady since I did the pulse width modulation thing. So maybe this thing's good to go the way I set it last night. Because today it didn't skip a beat. It didn't trip. when I got home, and it actually was pulling no utility power when we started this video, so it might be. We'll see. I'll try check it the next couple days. But lights going like crazy, and we'll plug this in for solar assist. Boom. It actually lifted up the voltage just a pinch, putting the solar back in. Trickle up on the amps there, 3.9. And then that's what it should do as the sun drops. So check the comments here. Is the inverter noise not too loud for the neighbors? It's not that loud. It's probably picking it up really good in the in the phone, but it's actually nice, pleasant. And because of the frequency it is, if you go around the corner, it's, you don't even hardly hear it. Now the bah bah sound you get from Goodman's, those carry over wall after wall after wall in the neighborhood. But it's that funky frequency. Now I could go in there and change the carrier frequency one step higher. They say the compressor windings get hotter as you keep changing that frequency up. So I think it's on the normal, it's either on 2 kilohertz, 4 kilohertz. What's that sound like to the ear? Might be 4 kilohertz. But it's not, like when I come home and I'm in front of the gate out here, I can hear it running and I can tell it's on first stage. But as soon as you get out here, you don't hear it. So that sound is just noticeable just in that one spot. So as soon as you probably go out on the other side of his gate, you don't hear it. Oh man, my little temporary rain cover is falling apart, man. Like how I stack the tape this way, like roofing shingles. I know I'm all over the place, guys. I ramble so much. Anyway, it's been fun experimenting with this stuff. Okay. So anyway, when this goes to 60 hertz, you barely could tell there's a drive in there. It's only when it's running the compressor at 40 hertz. I changed the Ecobee to make sure it has to go at least 2 degrees above set point before it switches. That way I can lock it on first stage as much as possible, which it pretty much just stays there unless it gets really hot. So throughout the day anyway, so it's kind of cool. Run off that solar as much as possible. Gian's asking about what happened to the car at the dealership. Well, the whole deal with the dealership, just so you guys know, it was not scamming the dealership. The guy already knew even before the car broke on the way there that what was wrong with the car. It's like the son-in-law's brother's best friend is one of the managers over there, so they're like, yeah, we could work something out, get you a discount and stuff. So he already knew, and then when the car broke, they blew the smoke out like you guys saw when it exploded. I'm kind of disappointed I don't have the car to take it apart though to see what happened, because that would have been a nice fine discovery video. But anyway, when it did break a mile from the dealership, we almost made it. That guy, the manager there, steered the car while I pulled it with the tow strap. So they're fully aware we didn't scam the dealership. We were joking about putting in the stop leak and taking it there. And at first I didn't know if we were going to go to the other dealership that actually did sell us the car. In that case, I was going to just stop leaking it and act like nothing, but because that car was messed up when we got it. But she wound up going where their close friend works. So they wound up getting their used vehicle. Her payment went up quite a bit. But it's a vehicle the size of our Escape. It's a Jeep Cherokee Latitude, which is just a clone of our Escape. I kind of like the styling of it. It's pretty cool, but it's almost as old as our Escape. What's the refrigeration looking condenser control? Wait, Pepsi, what are you asking about? Gotta get out of the shade so I can read the text. K-seal head gasket stuff. Yeah, someone was mentioning that, unless that was you at the time. I put the bars leak head gasket, but it was like the $13 formula. They had like a $30 formula that's like atomics. See, but I'm like, no, we just need to get the car just to make it to the dealership. So we put in what we put in. Oh, the rain cover, what about it? Where's the rain cover? What's this looking? This is the PepsiCo. You already know what this is, right? This is my water heater. Compressor, condenser that I turned into an evaporator with the 2-circuit capillary tubes back there. You have to look at my past video for that. Works. Pressures came out perfect. I just foamed around the rotary compressor, foamed around the heat exchanger. This is just a high pressure switch, which is incorporated, and it's got a plug there. I just don't want it to rain on the plug, really. The only thing that can hurt is not much, because I mean, you know, these condensers are found outside without the doghouse cover all the time. Oh, and I have a capacitor here, but upside down in the way this is all tucked in there, probably wouldn't short out in the rain. But I have this piece of heavy freaking steel. I mean, it's thick. I can't even hardly bend it. I think if I cut that, or cut it and bend it and make a doghouse cover, might be kind of cool. I was almost daydreaming about boxing it and like putting a vent that could be open and closed to put the cold air into the garage this time of year, but I'm not going to hack those holes in the house. I'm just going to get a mini split for that space. Probably put the mini split condenser right here and move this thing over there, I think. Yep, see, sun's going down. The more it's going down, the more it's tapping power off the utility automatically. 4.3 volts. This video, you saw the title. It's actually turned into a success video. Last week I tried to do video to show something, and then it was like a fail. It turned out to be a fail. And then even the video failed, so I deleted it. It was so crappy quality. It was connected to the upstairs Wi-Fi. But yeah, so it's starting to tap 5 amps again. Pulling less than that. It's just a meter. In perspective of what this meter's reading, you can see that it's going up. I like that. That's what I meant. I knew I wanted to order something else off of Amazon when I made my last order. I couldn't think of what it was, and now I remember what it is. I want to get like an amp meter, maybe even an amp meter and a voltmeter combo thing, and I cut a hole in one of these covers and put it in there. So I can just walk over here and get a reference. Oh, okay, it's pulling more current now off utility, and then see what my DC bus voltage is. If I get one that does DC voltage and AC amps, probably going to be 2 separate meters then. But anyway, it's kind of going up and down a little bit. So yeah, probably almost good enough. Let's see what the comments are. Call it quits. That foam. Yeah, oh yeah. Well, the foam, you're not supposed to see it if I ever actually put a box around that thing, like like you have on low temp stuff. I just never did it. But, and also I could get to it right now, but I haven't had to do anything. But you know what? We're getting close to 100-degree days, and that's R410. One of these days I need to come hook my pressure gauge up and see what it's getting up to now that it's warm out here. And then once we get to 110-degree days, you know, we should take a poll on that. We should do a poll. Is it gonna freaking trip? I think it probably will. 130-degree water at its cutout point and 110 plus degree afternoon. What's the 410 pressure going to be? Now it's a pretty good size heat exchanger for a little 9,000 BTU thing. It's like a 2 or 3 ton units. I think it's a 2 ton, so heat exchanger, and it's a little 9,000 BTU compressor. So the volume of water at 130 degrees is moving pretty good click. I actually have that pump turned down. It's not on high, so I could probably put it on high to get a little more later, but when it starts really cranking out the heat. But I don't know, we'll see. It might not conk out, or I might have to do something like put a second pressure switch I can adjust or something, and then have it start like dropping out the evaporator fan. I think if I drop out the evaporator fan to slow down the heat load, that'd probably regulate my head pressure. So, what are you saying? Old plastic water tank cut some holes and screw to the wall. I think if I just put some over and down, it'll be enough, because I need the air to go through. So if maybe I'll weld a couple rings coming, like studs coming out, you know, in a spot to put a couple threads, and then and just put like a hinge or something, or you know, just put a couple studs up here in that wood that I put up there. I need a better piece of wood than that. Something up there, and maybe just make it so that's an L shape, or maybe an angle for the rain, and just have it slap on there, and then just screw here and screw there. You'll just see it, and in the air you'll see the condenser here, and it'll just be, if I go a little long with it over on this side, then the air will just push through and it'll just hide most of the ugliness. I used cardboard to kind of encapsulate where I foam filled it, but now the cardboard is one with the foam, so I just kind of left it. It's extra insulation. still kind of bouncing around just under 5 amps. It's probably really RMS, probably really pulling like 3 amps. Voltage is still, we're bouncing right there, there and about where my regulation set point must be. The green light's pulsing more and more as it's pulsing my little triac there. It's not hot yet. You see I have several microprocessors here because I was reprogramming them in there. I haven't brought the laptop in the clip-on program just because it's so much high voltage around here. Even that's high voltage right there. Going through the triac gate, isolated, optical isolator there, so it isolates it over here. But I don't want anything to touch my program or my Surface Pro or Surface Go or whatever I use when I bring it out here. One of each. But anyway, just programming different ones and swapping them, pulling the chip out of the socket. That's what I'm trying to say as I'm rambling on here. I keep saying condenser. What do you when you say condenser? Oh, over there was I saying condenser instead of evaporator? John, when they talk about what's worse, AC or DC, try looking at it on the internet, like with the engineers. They argue about it, so I still don't have a clear answer on that. I've heard that DC is more dangerous because it doesn't go zero crossing and it makes you hold on. But then there's people that swear that it's the opposite, that AC is more dangerous than DC. I don't know. So peak to peak, your 230 volts coming in is 330, about 327 at this point. That's what I was getting when I unplugged the thing and closed straight utility, about 327 right now. The power coming to your house varies a little bit. Oh, thanks, Goodman. Whoa. Anyway, so, but your peak to peak voltage, on your 230 volt coming in is like 330 DC, and then for 460 it's like over 600 DC. It's pretty crazy because what you're actually getting, it's just that RMS voltage is 230 and 480. So I'm pretty satisfied. I actually haven't changed any adjustments today, and it's actually working. I can remove this whenever I get a chance. This is high voltage. They're those little fucking wires. It's braided wire though. Going to those resistors right there, and then the LED that's pretty much telling me it's charged. DC bus there, but I can take those off probably at some point. But got these alligator clips I got off Amazon, are awesome. Took like 2 or 3 attempts to get some that were not shitty. Still a little under 5 amps. So I'll leave that on it for another second while I tell you guys another story before we kill the live video. But remember like a month ago I went and looked at this church, and the air handlers are mounted above the T-grid, 20 something feet above the T-grid, and they have catwalk hanging on all thread that they expected you to throw like your 30-foot ladder up to reach and then walk onto that catwalk suspended by a all thread hanging underneath the furnaces. Do you guys remember that? And I thought we should run from that. Well, evidently I'm going tomorrow. Remember how the Goodman made Daikin coils that all leaked? Yeah, death trap up there. Remember that? So they're waiting for them to build like the catwalk or whatever steel structure that I told them they need. But evidently they just took down the T-grid. Our company's gonna go in there and put in the air handlers soon. They're going to replace the air handlers, but they're fixing those fucking Goodman main Daikins, and they're going to have us go tomorrow to get those ready. We're going to go put new coils in. The coils turned out to be under warranty because, of course, fucking Goodman has to give people like long warranties on everything, just so you're stuck fixing the turds, and they want their brand, I guess, to stick around, right? So I got to go change out those coils, me and another guy, 4 coils. Probably won't get it all done tomorrow, and then they need us to go see what air handlers to go to, because I guess somebody's going to come in there after they've identified the air handlers. They're going to build a temporary scaffolding. Somebody's going to come in and set it up for our guys, and our guys are going to go in there, or they're going to use a lift or something. I'm not sure now. They keep changing it. They're going to go change those air handlers somehow. Of course, I'm not having any part of that whatsoever inside. But that they wanted me the other day. They wanted me to go ahead and start them up the way they are and see if it'll work. I'm like, dude, it's R22. And he go, well, maybe they changed the TXVs. I go, I doubt it. But let's say they did. The coils are still 300 PSI rated R22 coils, and it's a heat pump. So I don't know, man. What do you guys think? It's going to be pretty crazy, huh? I'm going to dot all the I's and cross all the T's on my paperwork and say, you know, what it is, just like I did before. I can't believe, you know, our company's compromising with the customer to go on the cheap. It sounded like a customer accepted the fact that he should just replace the systems with the matching new units and not the dike. I go, you know, are you going to keep this building? Is this some place you guys can stay in? Yeah. I go, well, you know, someone could put in coils on those couple-year-old Goodman Daikin's out there. They're probably just going to leak again in another couple of years and again and break down and, you know, all that kind of crap. But no. So they went cheap when they got those 4 on this one building. They have another 4 Daikin's on the other one, but they got cheap when they had some blow and go company come out and put in those 4 condensers, 4 heat pump condensers onto that existing R22 air handlers. And now they're trying to, like, you know, fix those and go cheap, you know, hooking up new air handlers onto those Daikin piece of shits. Yeah. Old coil's probably way better to do anyway. Could be. They're 2003 Train 5-ton heat pump air handlers, TWEs or whatever those would be, 060s. So yeah, I definitely ain't going up there, but I'll probably have some more pictures and video for Friday night. What'd you say? Detecting Arizona says 10-year on those Daikin, Goodman made Daikin condensers, coils. I'm gonna spray, start liquid R21. Oh gosh, machine valves always leak. Trying to go back, it's bright out here. So anyway, that's what's up for tomorrow, so stay tuned. I'll probably have a story for afterwards. So, oh, by the way, you know how I hate Goodman, and I have one Goodman left? That motor, when I was out here yesterday, started doing that bearing getting dry. It doesn't have like a bunch of side play, but it was starting to do that noise. And actually, I switched the top with my old unit I took away. Or not my old unit, somebody else's unit I still had in the backyard. I scrapped it, but I kept this fan grill because it's not the type you have to take off to get to the fan. It has this 2-piece. So I used the fan that was in it, but obviously wasn't going to make it for the summer. So I took that motor apart yesterday and put oil in it and put it back together. I have other motors. I'm like, fuck you, Goodwin. You're getting oil. And of course it snapped one of the threads when I tried to take these 8-core nuts off, and so I had to take one out of a junk motor. But yeah, it's not squilling now. We'll see how long it works. You know, what's the worst could happen to a break. So they now make brown turd Goodmans again? No longer the less smelly green turds. I guess they increased the odor again back to the brown turds, huh? Oh man. Doing mad scientist experiments on the turd Goodman is the best thing that could happen to it. That's right. I've added TXVs, which I then had to come out and put non-bleed, so I had to come down and put the kickstart on here, or wouldn't even start the recip. You know, once I added a TXV, it doesn't equalize now. See how fast that did stop right there? I was worried about it, but it starts right up. You know that's going to fail, but I tried that once before. It was a fail, but now we're trying it again. Yep, so brown turd Goodmans were 90s and 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I know in the 90s, and then up to the later 2000s, and they went to the slightly less smelly green turds. It's when they got rid of some of the blatantly horrendous issues like they had on these ones. You know, those paper thin capillary tube thick, you know, distributors you see down there. Right there, that distributor out of the piston metering devices, those things are paper thin. You gotta make sure they don't rub. They were notorious for rubbing and leaking all the time. Again, I'll say, I've never experienced before or after the fact that, like, housing divisions, such as this, for example, the homeowners association would have discussions on how the homes with the Goodmans had like night and day high amount of failure rate for the same things over and over compared to the sections in the HOA that had the carrier and the train. Remember, it was Chainsaw Charlie, Chaz Roberts, that installed 90% of AC units in new homes from, you know, the late 90s all the way until like 10 years ago. So this was a Chaz Roberts, for example. Well, I was working for them years ago, it was like, it came all the way back to them, and so they had to give them special pricing to fix. They called them cap tubes, because that's what everybody called them. The cap tube leak, the cap tube leak. Well, they had to give them special discounted labor rate to fix it when they were like 2 and 3 years old, because they were habitually breaking so much that every two or three houses had that same failure within those 2 to 3 years. So HOA talked about it. They knew Goodman by name, and they all knew consensus was Goodman fucking sucks. And those Chainsaw Charlie, same quality installations of carrier and train in different sections of, you know, the city block, different neighborhoods, different builders, or different choices, would have far less breakdowns. Brand specific breakdowns. Of course, if you guys don't have heat pumps, you don't see the thin cap tubes. You didn't see the stack relay heater sequencer up in the attic, you know, unless you had straight heat, probably. Same air handler. You know, things like that. The year-round operation of the compressor, summer and winter. So if you guys have gas and straight cool, that eliminated half the problems right there. So, anyway. Yeah, that's right, Julio. Ripping on the Goodman. Way to finish up the video. I just replaced a Chaz Roberts unit yesterday. It says flex hanging within half an inch of the flue pipe. Oh, dude, they sent us to the Arizona heat pump counselor class, and I was still at Chainsaw Charlie back in like 2001 or 2002. We go to the heat pump counselor classes they had here. Big deal, right? Big class. They had all sorts of techs from different companies. We sat and sunk in our seats in the back of that class while everybody from every other company talked absolute shite about Chaz Roberts, and he couldn't defend it. They're like, well, you guys don't understand. He's telling these guys that flew in to do the training. He goes, Chaz Roberts does most of the new homes around here, and they just literally throw the ductwork, and it looks like spaghetti noodles, not strapped. It sags, it goes up and down and twists and kinked, and guess what? Were those guys lying? Were they slandering the Chainsaw Charlie installation? Absolutely not. They were giving, you know, exact, perfect description of what it looked like in the attics. Some of the more expensive houses, like now I live in a better one than my first house, they actually strapped it somewhat. So, you know, probably higher class builders, they probably got on Chaz Roberts a little more. But like the more entry level cookie cutter houses, dude, those guys were just slapping freaking the Pookie, and the flex stuck everywhere. So, all right, it's creeping up a little. 5.3 is the sun continues to change its angle of incident onto my panels. I really need a knife switch disconnect here. I don't even know if I put this thing in there. Who's gonna get in here and get shocked? I'm surprised this hasn't snapped yet, especially if this is original. Alright. People just go, what the fuck? AC power, DC rectifier controller. Oh, that's pretty much it. And I still haven't sealed the top, but if I know that this rigment works, it should be good to go. So I did notice when I had this set kind of funky, where I was doing a lot of erratic switching the other day, that both these heat sinks got kind of warm, the rectifier one and that triac one. So right now I can't even feel any change in temperature above what everything is out here. So it's happy for now. We'll see about later on when it switches over to all utility, but it hasn't blown up. The smoke hasn't been let out. It says turn me off. Anyway, all right, guys. I'm gonna go in there. I'm sure the metalcore listening 11-year-olds expecting me to take her to go get some fast food since mommy's gone with doing their thing. So need a bigger box. I had a bigger box. I was starting to build it in an old ugly knife switch disconnect I gutted. And I was just going to paint it or put foil tape on it. I thought foil tape would be funny. But the last thing of it. But we'll see what happens. I might even, when I perfect whatever I'm doing, I might just fit it all down into the condensing unit. Might cut through some more heat sinks or something. with the plasma cutter and put the heat sinks on the fan side, you know, like I did for the VFD. Yeah. So, what type of metering device for which one? The Lennox has a TXV 410 in the thermal zone, which is a rude green, whatever, air handler. And then I added the TXV to convert this straight cool condenser to a heat pump. It wasn't a heat pump. Someone might not really know it now because I put that there for this dedicated suction. This was a, go look at my previous video of when I converted it. It looks factory, or some might say better than factory. TXV distributor branches, made 5 circuits with a check valve on the bottom for the stupid phone call. But TXV distributors, reversing valve, all that. I custom made by hand. Well, not the components, but you know, the fabrication of it. So it came out awesome, and the heat pump worked great. So heated great. So, yeah, it's funny. Take lots of pictures. So yep, tomorrow. And there's, what panels is he asking about? Panels for what? Is he? Are you talking about that thing up there? That's homemade. I got to make panels, but if you rewind after the video saves later, you'll see I talked about that. So I keep saying that thing's not solar. That's running off of solar and utility. That's what this video is about. It's about trying to make a controller automatically tap utility power only as much as needed, and it's pulsing my triac as it needs to add more and more utility power as my sun goes down. So when I started this live stream video that's still going, I could pull my utility power out and my compressor and fan would stay running off of the solar DC power. But now it won't. The sun's angular is too low. But it's only drawing probably like 20 to 30% utility, and most of it off DC solar still. All homemade. No charge controller, no batteries. Rewind again, I got a bunch of freaking 100 DC LED batteries down there. I don't know if I'm going to hook that up to this, or I might save those for battery backup for when power goes off. Who knows? We'll see. I might actually hook it all up, add 10 more panels up there, make this just more capacity, and when I put the mini split in, I might take the same DC power and tie it into the mini split too. We will see. Who knows what kind of Frankenstein shit I come up with. But eventually, you know, it's going to add more factor to blowing shit up and going, have a Wario when he gets hit by the turtle shells. Anyway, all right, I'm really going to go this time. Tesla Power, dude. Well, here the thing about my stuff is it's do-it-yourself, mostly recycled or free-to-me stuff with little purchases as possible. So I have 5,500 watts off-grid. That's my Tesla panels up there on-grid that I pay monthly for. But that's off-grid. That only costed me, what was it, 1,100 bucks? 50 bucks a panel times 22. That's all I have in the solar. The VFD I got for free. I got the compressor over there, AC unit for free. Bought the air handler and bought the components to make it into a heat pump. I don't have that much into it. I got like not much into the system. If I buy a Tesla Powerwall, you're talking many thousands of dollars. So it would take me forever to recoup that. The only benefit of spending that expense, you know, that would make it really worth it, is if I knew power was going to start becoming an issue. And we have good power generally in Arizona. We have the power plant and everything, nuclear. But who knows? With the way politicians are being, they might engineer some crisis, you know, with rolling blackouts and stuff just to push their freaking democratic socialist, you know, new Green Deal and all that kind of crap. But don't even get me started talking about that right now, or this will be another 2-hour video and I've got to end it. So anyway, yeah, we have generally have power, but our power's old. We're above. We've had some power outage. Our power is above ground right here in this part of town, Old Glendale. So if you look at the houses around here, a lot of them are like 40, 50 years old. This was like the newest section. It's now 20 years old, almost. So anyway, I'm rambling like an idiot, probably. So anyway, I'm gonna catch you guys later. I'm gonna put my tools up and see what's for dinner. Catch you later.